Hi, Ruth.
Hi.
Okay, so I want to thank everyone for being here today. First of all, I am a major supporter of the Jewish National Fund, JNF. I am excited to be on the board for the Monmouth and Middlesex counties chapter of JNF. I've been involved with JNF pretty much my entire time that I've been the rabbi at MJC, which is now 10 years. Thanks to the synagogue enables me to be a member of the Rabbis for Israel Society. That is, rabbis who are actively promoting JNF, and I do get some benefits from that as well. So I really appreciate the strong partnership that MJC has with the Jewish National Fund. So at one of our board meetings, Anna Milstein, who is, one of the directors of JNF and really heads up our activities here in New Jersey. She told us about an initiative where people from around the United States were raising funds to beautify a bomb shelter near the Israel border with Gaza in particular. At the Israel border with Gaza, as you can imagine, there are many bomb shelters. If you live in Israel, you might have a bomb shelter in your building, but along the Israel-Gaza border, there's been so much, movement to that part of the country that some bomb shelters are not attached to a specific building. They're just, in like a public space. Until some number of years ago, the bomb shelters, were just, functional. They looked like, just functional cement structures. They did the job. That if a siren went off, you had 11 seconds to go there and you would be safe, but they weren't particularly attractive. And for people living in the area, to take a structure that was already there and to make it beautiful, is a great opportunity to just improve the entire, living environment of the area. Not to mention the fact to see something beautiful when you're rushing to a bomb shelter, which is a life-threatening situation, is a much nicer experience than to rush to, just something that's basically looks like cinder block. So JNF started an initiative to beautify bomb shelters in this part of the country for a total of $5,000. We, as a synagogue, the Marlborough Jewish Center, could sponsor a bomb shelter. An Israeli artist would beautify it, and it could include, some MJC iconography, maybe our logo or something like that. But it would be noted that Marlborough Jewish Center is the sponsor of beautifying this bomb shelter. So, look, it's an opportunity at a relatively low cost, I think, $5,000 total, to improve the lives of Israelis who, who are living in a dangerous part of the country. All of Israel can be under threat at times, but certainly near the Gaza border, that it can be, sometimes a stressful situation. So that's why I thought, this is something that we as a synagogue could do. It's pretty low-hanging fruit. Again, $5,000, as a total, synagogue effort. This is our chance to take a little, virtual trip to Israel and enjoy some Israeli art. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Jules, who's going to lead us from this point.
Thanks, Rabbi. So what I'm going to show you is a PowerPoint, a combination of actual photos and some video clips and some background about the region, what's been going on. You can put your questions into the chat, and I'll pick them up more towards the end of the presentation so it doesn't interrupt the flow. So at that point, let me get started here. Okay. It's not
Click on the bottom left, honey, where the arrows are.
There we go. So let's talk about a typical scenario. I'm not going to read it to you, but you can read it for yourself. We sit here in our suburban communities and we don't think twice about any kind of enemy fire coming in. And if we hear a siren, what do we think? You know, if the rescue squad, is it's police, what may it be? And you hope nothing as major is going on. And it fades away and we go about our business. Let's talk about a same scenario in Israel. Same opening phrase. You're at work in your home, spending time outside. Here's where the story changes, not the same. There are apps available for phones, multiple kinds, which are sanctioned by the government, developed in coordination with the Home Front Command. And Israel right now is broken down into a total of 1,700 separate zones. This is as of 2019. Why 1,700? Because what was happening was that
Can't really hear it, honey.
okay, the reason we have that many zones is because every time there was an alert, whether you were in down south by Eilat, or you were in the Gaza area, or you were sitting in Tel Aviv, Yerushalayim, Haifa, your phone went off. Now I'm going to play that again. I want somebody to just look at their watch and tell me how long it lasts.
Can't really hear it.
Did it come through that time? Okay. So does anybody look at their watch? That siren lasted for about 21 seconds. I want you to keep that number in mind. There's a reason. Because what I'm going to talk about is the short time people have. So you hear the sirens, then you can look up in the sky and actually see the smoke trails, the rockets that have been launched at you. Smoke trails vary, and what you're looking at is a barrage. Sometimes it's one rocket, sometimes it's a mortar shell, sometimes there's a lot of them fired at once. That's what happened in 2014 during Protective Edge, and on subsequent occasions. Key point, you heard the sirens go off. You've got to grab your kids. The older kids are used to this. Yes, there is some PTSD in the community, but they know that they have to run, they have to take shelter. So you're grabbing kids, you're grabbing elderly. You always know where the nearest shelter is, because you have to know. It's the way of life. I said to that siren I played was 21 seconds. In the communities we're going to be discussing, you had 11 to 20 seconds to find a safe spot. And you think about how long that siren went off, and you think about how you have to grab everybody and you got to get into a shelter. It doesn't leave a lot of time. And this is routine. Not acceptable, but it's routine. So let's look at a map of Israel. Down here is Gaza. It's a little strip. Whoops, sorry, back up. It's a little strip over here. This area over here is Egypt, what was known as either the Sinai or Sinai, depending on who you listen to. Gaza, when Israel gave up the Sinai to Egypt, land for peace, they also offered them Gaza. And they said, no, thank you, we don't want it. So the communities we're going to be talking about, I'll have better slides in a moment, are right along here. They are literally on the border. Gaza has 2 million people in it. There are a bunch of communities here, okay, that we'll be looking at. And then further away, you have your major cities. You have Ashkelon, which occasionally gets a rocket. Beersheba is further east. And then we're not going to be talking about it, but there are other rockets which can go further. We're going to focus on the Gaza Strip and the communities. So some background. The key point here is that they are constantly firing it. Most of them have the Katyusha rockets they've developed with smuggled in components. So Israel's constantly checking the waterways, they're constantly checking the border crossings. But in the last number of years since Hamas took over in 2006, when Israel moved down in 2005, they gave up the land for peace. A lot of those people actually moved into these communities along the Gaza border. Over 15,000 rockets and mortars have been fired. There's a variety of weapons. A lot of them are smuggled in from Iran, and they have a greater reach. So to give you some perspective, Beersheba, which is now called the Queen of the Negev, is now grown to 250,000 people. And that's in range, okay? All these various communities listed here. Shderot, which is on the bottom slide, bottom listing rather, is constantly being rocketed to the point that JNF built 6 years ago a 21,000 square foot indoor playground, because these kids have 11 seconds. And built into that playground are 6 shelters. And we've seen them, Beth and I have visited them. They don't look like bomb shelters. One is a soccer court, one is a classroom, one is a play area. Necessities of life. So we're going to be talking about the Gaza envelope. So what that area is figure a radius of 4.3 miles from the Gaza border. Clearly it's a radius, but nothing's going to be flying west because that would be out into the Mediterranean. So it's all actually that distance into Israel with just mortar shells and the Qassam rockets. So it's just a different slide of the area, a little bit more detail. Up here is the Erez crossing, which has not been used in years. It's sealed. Down here on the bottom, we have the Keren Shalom crossing. That is the one crossing where critical supplies are allowed in from Israel into Gaza. The Rafah crossing is maintained by Egypt, and there have been periods of time it's been closed down for weeks on end. What I don't show on here is, because there was constant terrorist activity, Muslim Brotherhood into Egypt, with nobody in the world complaining, Egypt came in and literally leveled a 1 kilometer area. That's, about 0.67 miles away from the border, flooded the tunnels with sewage, and keeps that one crossing open for support. So any of the supports coming in from countries like the United Arab Emirates or Qatar have to come into Israel through a port up north, get moved down to that area, and then come in on trail on flatbed trucks or tankers. So when you hear situations about supplies not getting in, that's not correct. Critical supplies, medical supplies, fuel supplies are all getting in. And plus the truckloads are all inspected, because guess what? Everything's being smuggled in. So if you think about drug smugglers, this is different. This is rocket component smugglers. It could be metal that's used to make rockets. It could be components used to make the explosive, whatever. Just a little bit different view, just exploded a bit. All the communities we're talking about, this is the Gaza border down here. All the communities are up through here. We meaning Beth and I, have visited the communities down here, which JNF has helped build, called Halutza. And these were a lot of the people who were displaced from Gaza, wound up settling, and they're thriving communities. A little bit different perspective. If this is Gaza, if we look at the distances, 10 kilometers from Gaza, 15 seconds. So all the communities we're going to be talking about are here. We were there a year ago, January, spent time in Ofakim. It's right here. So this is just give you a nice, colorful, graphic way to look at it. Just again, one other strip. There's different kinds of rockets. Again, we've been talking about the mortars and the Qassam rockets. The last two are actually smuggled in from, I said earlier, by Iran. And you just see, again, visually, the distance and the time for something to happen. So the obvious question is, why do we need bomb shelters? Some people have said, well, they're all over Israel. Well, in reality, by law, all the buildings must have bomb shelters built in or in the basement. When we stay in the apartment in Jerusalem, when we visit, the garage is underneath the building and there are signs for bomb shelters. When you're out in public, there are signs in the buildings for bomb shelters. But what happens when you move down here? These communities amazingly are thriving. In spite of the constant rocket attacks, the populations are consistently growing. There's a number of reasons. One, our people are just tired of the cities. And we've seen that down in that region. The other piece is some people are just looking for a different way of life. They're tired of the rat race. They want to go back to farming, something in that nature. The problem is they move into the equivalent of mobile homes. And we were down in the Eilat area. I was visiting Kibbutz Eliphaz a year ago. And our friends are living on trailers. Think about the old joke about a hillbilly double wide. That's kind of what these are. So why 3 to 5 years? Well, the answer simply is the government just moves that slowly. One of the people you'll hear on a film clip shortly, Yedidia, who's our JNF liaison, or liaison to JNF from the Halutza region, we visited his site plan, I guess 3 years plus ago, and I think they finally just started construction on it. So what do these people have if they're living in trailers? What do? You put in portable bomb shelters. So what are these things? They're not portable, they're transportable with a heavy crane. Concrete reinforced steel. They're meant for short term. It's just to get undercover for a period of time. Interestingly, for those of you who met when I had Yaron Bobbin, our Rocket to the Roast architect, he's in Moshav Yated, which is also part of this region. And there have been times when I've seen him online, what I know is the equivalent of 2 a.m. Israel time, and I'll message with Yaron. I'll say, Rocket. So yeah, we're in our house. They have a shelter in the house. Okay, well, how far do you put them apart? So every 100 meters, about every 330 feet. Remember, you've got a very short time, and people have to quickly realize where they are, run left, right, sideways, whichever way, and get into one of these. They're also located, as you'll see in a couple of pictures, obviously by the temporary housing areas, and also by any rail stations, any parks, or actually bus stations. This is a picture from Ofakim, which you pointed out a little while ago, and you can see it. There's a few variations on the design, where the entrance may be or how the roof has been finished. But basically, it's a not cinder block, but poured concrete reinforced steel structure. And it's right behind some buildings. This is the larger one, which we saw something similar as down in the Halutza Triangle. They're normally more used, what we saw down there was for defense coordination. You can see the shutters on the windows. Okay. And again, side comment, anything being built in these communities are built as reinforced structures. So like the kindergarten itself is a bomb shelter. The windows are reinforced, the doors are reinforced, so they don't have to move the kids. This one, as I say, is a different design, and it's not the typical one you're going to see. So I'm going to show you this. I'm going to watch a time lapse here of the Israeli artist decorating an area.
Shalom from Kerem Shalom. We are here on the border with Gaza, less than few hundred feet away from the border, here in the Gaza envelope. And we came today to surprise the children of Kerem Shalom, thanks to our partner, thanks to you, our partner from Jewish National Fund. Let's see what the result will look like. Good luck, Eliasaf.
Thank you. Good luck.
I'm going to pause it for a second. What this particular one represents is, you see all these people walking. This represents the Ethiopians who came to Israel. So they're walking across the Sudanese desert. And that's what this represents. And at the end of the clip, you're going to see a community of all Ethiopians. This was a kibbutz in Kerem Shalom, which was not being used. And it became a relocation center for the immigrants being flown into Israel. And in a second, where he is right now, you'll see an El Al plane being painted, and that represents the flying in of these people.
Hi, my name is Reut. I live in Kerem Shalom.
Hi, my name is Yoav. I serve here in the Gaza Strip.
Hi, my name is Ronnie Kissin. I live in Kerem Shalom.
I moved here 3 years ago with my friends during the army, and now I live here when I finish my service.
I'm a soldier from Nahal.
The kibbutz is in the triangles borders between Egypt, Gaza, and Israel. We are the closest kibbutz that built near the border.
To me, these bomb shelters are, first of all, safety. I know that when I walk in the streets, the first thing I think about is where's the closest bomb shelter in case there's a bombing.
We have about 74 children here around the kibbutz that grow here and see the bomb shelters around. That doesn't seem so nice to think about bomb shelters around your village, kibbutz, city, wherever you live. But when you take a picture and see such beautiful pictures on this bomb shelter, it's making the children happy. It makes them fearless from the bomb shelters.
I love this art. It makes me feel much more happier being here. It's so beautiful.
To see the change and the youthfulness and the life that these drawings put into it is super meaningful. To me, it brings up a smile. I know that for the kids, instead of having such a negative connotation to a bomb shelter, they see this amazing drawing and they look at it in a more happy light.
Thank you so much for helping us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So I'm going to show you some exhibits that have been done, and look at the detail and realize he's using, you've seen him, he's using a spray paint can. This was recently donated by a JNF member who unfortunately left us not a couple of years ago to medical issues. It's just incredible design and detail that he gets into these things. same thing. These anemones, as they're called, are actually in full bloom right now down in the fields. In spring, they pop up, and people literally go out to the countryside at this time of the year to see these fields of red flowers. He's just exploded them from a grass level view or an eye level if you're laying down into a whole field of beautiful flowers. Let's hear from Elisaf. Reading a script, of course, because he's not fluent in English.
My name is Eliasaf. I live in Moshav Shokeda. It is located in Gaza envelope. My wife's name Yael, and I have 4 children. Since then I remember I loved painting, but just 12 years ago it became my main practice. 12 years ago, the reality on the Gaza envelope had to change when rocket attack from Gaza became the part of our life. The government decided to put a bomb shelters on all the settlements near the Gaza border. Just imagine how your neighborhood would like with an ugly concrete structures every 100 meters. How it make you feel? One day, I volunteered to draw on the bomb shelters on the intervals in my moshav. After this one bomb shelters, I was invited to draw on another bomb shelters in my area. One day, I met Yedidia Harush from JNF, and he suggested to expand the project to all over the area and copyright part of the project with the local children. I feel privileged and thankful to be part of this vision. Thank you, JNF.
This one was just dedicated recently by Phyllis Solomon, who Rabbi knows, and she is involved in music and loves music and has a foundation for music. And they literally just finished this one a few weeks back. So the themes can be anything that makes people happy. And as you'll notice, this was dedicated, by the Phyllis Chauncey Solomon, the Chauncey Foundation, and her other family members. Everybody gets involved. This is pomegranates. And here he did the outline, and you can see the kids doing it. And you're going to ask, why fruit? Well, where a shelter is next to a field, they try and keep the same motif. So you can see the strawberries here. And that obviously is by a strawberry field, and this is by a pepper plant field. And you'll notice over here, it's right next to a bus stop. For those in the generation, remember the VW bus? It's converted in, there's a family posing in front of it. In the same way, the creativity is just amazing to me. And I've got a lot more than what I'm showing you, but the artist's work is just unbelievable. Not going to read, just take a moment to read this, please. This is an actual quote from a young child who lives in Moshav Yated, which I mentioned earlier, just coincidentally. And the kids really react to it. It gets rid of that ugly gray structure that they're stuck looking at. So it brings life to the community. It brings color to the community. It brings joy to the community. Okay, so why is getting involved? Well, clearly MJC is involved, as the rabbi already introduced the point that, we want to be a sponsor of a bomb shelter. Somewhere in the artwork, it'll be MJC's name. The donation are restricted funds. In other words, when when you make the donation in the past to JNF, you could specify general fund, or you could say specific funds such as special and uniform. We've done fundraising for Lotem Mother Nature. We did it for Ali Negev, which is now Adi Negev. So those funds are segregated and used directly for that. So we donate to JNF because number one, it's very easy to do it online and they can handle the receipts and everything else. And that's where the funds sit there until we're ready to do it. The link is there. And I can publish this again. Or if you want to write it down, I can take a moment. And I'll put something out in the newsletter with the audio clip of the rabbi's recording. Okay, when you go to that page, this is what you're going to see. Be a little narrative, and you can specify the donation you want to make. And that's another one of the bomb shelters, which I didn't use in this presentation. But there's just numerous ways of decorating them. Again, same way, you can't really tell, but again, it's right next to a bus stop.
Anna put the link in the chat because the link that you have, there's a mistake. It's a slash, not a period at some point. So just FYI, everybody, the link is in the chat.
Yeah, just I want to, Jules, thank you for putting all of that together, and Anna, thank you as well. I just want to point out to everybody that first of all, the artwork is absolutely gorgeous, and I didn't realize this before, that the children of the communities are actively engaged in helping with this project. So this isn't just about art; it's also about education for the kids in Gaza. And you know what? The kids and everybody living in the region, especially the children, they can't control when the rockets are going to come, and that's a terrifying experience. But this is a part of living in the region that empowers the kids and gives them a little bit of control over what happens. They can make the space where they're going to go and feel safe. They can make it, a little bit. They can put a little bit of themselves in that space. So that's empowering for the kids. And again, of course, as the people in the video said, it helps them to feel better. It helps them to feel good in especially what can be in the midst of what can be a very difficult, terrifying situation. It's just such a great project all around. Jules, is it just the one artist who is doing this, or are there multiple artists?
Anna, do you know offhand? I think I only know about Eliphaz.
Just the one artist, Eliasaph.
Yeah, he just travels around, but just realize we're only talking about a 12, 13, maybe 15-mile border region.
Right.
So there's a waiting list to do this. The shelters are there. In a different video, the video called JNF, called Russell Robinson, and said, we're getting hit. And immediately they arranged for shelters to be transported in. And now it's automatic. These shelters are constantly being placed because it's a way of life. But the decorating is something that's been going on. And so we've driven around, we've seen them. We have spent, Beth and I have spent time down in that region on many visits, part of it because of her involved with the Macomb communities, part of it just because we wanted to see it and touch it ourselves. And it's a sobering moment when you literally are a couple of 100 yards from the border down the Halutza communities. You look behind you and you're literally on the border with Egypt. And you look to the west and there's a fence, which is the border with Gaza. And you realize how close they are. That's why the bombing distances are what they are, because it takes no time at all for something to reach them. But it's a way of life. And as I said, these communities are actually growing. And we have visited, just side comments, the agriculture down in the Halutza region is amazing. They have heavily into, I don't want to use enclosed, wrong word, Picture huge aluminum structures the size of multiple football fields, covered over with a fabric that will allow moisture in, and they're 10 and 12 feet high, and tomato plants are being trained using drip irrigation to grow up that way. We've seen fields of cauliflower, we've seen fields of other things, potatoes, whatever it may be. So they're living there, and they're making it, and they're doing fine, and they're part of the Israeli economy. One of those communities opened up a training center for, like, we think of Virginia Military Academy or something like that. It's equivalent to that, where these kids go there and they learn how to become IDF cadets when they go in, to get some pre-trained. There's agricultural schools down there. The one place we looked at was down in Halutza, was harvesting the potatoes and then cutting them into bags using some people who were challenged in some way, but they could do that. Peeling machines, it's like the machines, and putting them into huge bags to go to restaurants and commercial industries. So it's thriving. Okay, we've been on Yaron's moshav, besides being in his workshop. The first time we got, Shall used to politely sucked into the the rockets into roses. We went to visit and swallowed buying. Since then, he's become a good friend. But you travel through that area, and it's just, we cannot relate to it emotionally. Picture Manalapan rocketing Marlboro, Marlboro rocketing Manalapan, or another way of doing it. Think of this being fired from the middle of Manhattan. Would get you well into Brooklyn and Queens and over to New Jersey. So I'm open to questions. Anything?
I think it's pretty clear what our mandate is here. So as Beth said, Anna posted the link in the chat. I'm grateful for all of you who are here on this call today. I hope that you'll support this. All of you are going to be famous because, I'm going to take this video and we're going to blast it out to the entire Marlboro Jewish Center community. So, it's, but I ask you to, we'll encourage our entire community to get involved. I ask all of you here to please, reach out to your friends, your family members, tell them that you saw this video, tell them that you saw the great work that JNF is doing in the Gaza envelope. And please ask them any donation, doesn't matter how large, how small, any donation makes a difference and will help us reach our $5,000 goal. And then once we get there, then we can figure out how we want to beautify the shelter MJC style. So
Sounds like a plan, Rabbi.
yeah, sounds like a plan. All right, so again, everybody, thanks for being here. Anna, again, thank you. It's great to see you. And the baby, of course, gorgeous. And Jules, thanks for your work putting this together.
Thank you.